Welcome! Your Fearless Aging podcast is taking off. The cheers are for you, wanting to age and live fearlessly. Here's your host, America's healthy aging trainer and creator of the Ageless Living Lifestyle, Rico Cavaglia.
Hello, this is Rico Cavaglia, America's healthy aging trainer and creator of the Ageless Living Lifestyle. And this is your Fearless Aging podcast. And we have a really interesting episode today. And the title is The 6 Keys to Loving Your Life, All of Your Life. And that is so important. And I really like this title because that's also, what I teach in my Ageless Living Lifestyle. So I have a saying that the more you love yourself and the more you love your life, the better your life gets. So this is going to be something you really want to stick around and pay attention to, because I feel this is the most important thing, to love yourself and love your life more. So our guest today is the co-founder and director of Life Energy Coaching. It's a coaching firm where he develops and teaches leading edge energy transformation processes and products that help those who use them to live their best life. His work offers a convenient, reliable, and easy-to-use way to reconnect with one's true self or soul and be guided how to live life successfully from its powerful, all-knowing perspective. It is a fast track to helping you transcend the persistent noise of the lower mind to connect with the infinite intelligence and guidance of the soul, which chooses your life purpose and has been waiting to help you fulfill that purpose. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on our guest today. Our guest is Murray Ansell. So Murray, thanks very much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Rico, it's an absolute pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, thanks for being here. So as I mentioned to you just before we started, I'd like to put you on the spot a little bit, start off, and so people can get to know a little bit more about you just as a person. And so tell us something that interesting about yourself and that maybe other people many people know about, or is there something you love or what you love to do?
Well, I come from, I didn't know this at the time, but I come from Middle Earth. I grew up in New Zealand, which of course was the site for those Lord of the Rings movies. But for the first almost half of my life at this point, I was living down there and playing lots of sport and just really enjoying the beauty and the outdoor lifestyle down there. So I'm a huge sports fan. I love, I was reasonably successful in tennis and hockey and represented my province at both of those sports. So I've always been very competitive and really into performance. And little did I know that by this time in my life, I would be helping people with, being a performance coach, but at a level that I couldn't have ever anticipated when I was younger. I hadn't thought about the soul and mind, body, soul, the connection. It just didn't come up until my soul brought it up for me. So that was many years.
Yeah, it takes a while to learn about that, and that's why both you and I and all the other people that are helping so more people can learn about that at a younger age and don't have to wait so long, right?
Yes. Yes.
I wanted to ask you, I always wanted to go to New Zealand. I haven't got there yet. I always heard it's one of the still environmental cleanest and most pristine places on there. So what would you say what you found the main difference, say, living in New Zealand or living here in the States?
I think it's a very different cultural experience. New Zealand is only a very small country. Now I think there's only about 4.5 million people, and it was about 1 million fewer than that when I was there. And the country's about the same size as California. And so in California, we've got maybe 35, 36 million, maybe more, I don't know.
Yeah, about 40 million now, yeah.
So now I'm living in Glendale, which is one of the 70-some cities in LA County. It's a nice city as LA County cities go, but it's a lot of people, So there's a huge contrast between New Zealand. One of the great things for Americans that go down to New Zealand, they just love They love three things, I think. One's the natural beauty, and New Zealand has such a wide range of that across, up and down the country. Another is the energy. It's very, very sort of peaceful energy. It's not that different from the sort of feeling that you have when you're in Hawaii. So that's great when you're coming from in my case, a place like LA. When I go down there, I'm instantly on vacation. It's a really great feeling, and just the people are really friendly because it's smaller communities, and it's just people are looking out.
You think it's a little easier to connect with your inner self and your soul and your God within inside when that kind of environment?
That's a good comment, but I feel like the lifestyle up here may force people to question, is this all there is? I think down there's not a lot of incentive for people to change the way they live because it works pretty well.
I see.
Up here, we're really in this country. There's so much emphasis on chasing the dollar,
right?
That and that's not it's not really a balanced way to live. We teach people how to find themselves, find that love that they are, get aligned with their source energy, which is love, and allow that the passion that they have to come forward from within them, and then turn that into a business. So that supports them doing what they love. So that sort of thing would never occur to me down there, I don't think.
Yeah, that's probably true. So when did you leave New Zealand and come to the United States?
Well, I was in my late 20s. I was in banking at that time. I was working for New Zealand's largest bank at the time, and I was in a management position, but I wanted to expand my horizons, and New Zealand is a lovely country, but it's so small and there's a big old world out here. So I did some traveling, and as luck would have it, I met the delightful Shirley, who would end up being my life partner and mother of my children. So I met her when I was traveling through LA, and she happened to be working for the same bank. It was a very serendipitous connection.
All right, so take us a little bit then on your journey once you moved here to LA. So take us on your journey, how you came to develop and teach what you do.
Well, I started when I got here. I had to figure out how to make money because the banking industry was consolidating and they weren't hiring in California. The hiring freeze was all over. So I thought, well, I do feel ready to try something of my own. Create some valuable service. I don't know what it would be at the time when I started thinking about it. But then I started serving small companies really in New Zealand and Australia and helping them to make connections up here in this market. I evolved that into learning about licensing, technology licensing, because that was, I saw that as a more fruitful way to go for a lot of the small businesses down there because they couldn't really meet the scale requirements of a huge market like the United States. And then I did that until the early 2000s. But something happened when I was in that business, and it happened actually 3 times. And on the 3rd time, I realized that there was a pattern here that was a dysfunctional pattern, and it was having me do a lot of work and create success for others, but then they'd walk away, leaving me with not with what we'd agreed on. So that started me on a inner journey, which I never really thought much about before then. And very, very quickly, doors started to open, people started to show up, as happens when your soul is waking you up. Mm-hmm. And within 24 or 48 hours, I was talking to another client in that licensing business who was he just called in out of the blue, wanted to catch up, see how we could help one another. and he started talking to me about EFT, tapping, any emotional freedom technique, and how he was so much enjoying helping people get over their emotional issues and limiting beliefs. And when he said limiting beliefs, I thought, oh, this sounds interesting. Maybe there's it seems like I might have a limiting belief. So he told me that this was being taught by different people around the country. It was like an open source type of thing where Gary Craig had opened it up to others. And so Shirley and I went and learned tapping within a few days of that. I think it was that weekend here in LA, and started on this journey into my energy. And then the next step was get some coaching. The coaching was interesting. There was a coach who used this technique. By the end of a couple of months of this coaching, her business was going through the roof, but mine hadn't improved. But I could see that there was something about this energy transformation that was working for her, but it wasn't working yet for me. So that was then the next step. I asked her, well, what do you do when you're trying everything that you know, and it's not working for you? So the next step was she referred me to a place where they sold a form of what you could call energy medicine, in this case, flower essences. And there were a couple of different things that were interesting about that for me, actually life-changing, because it was how do they find out what you need? And so in this particular store, which is no longer around now, but it was there for me, they ask you if they can connect with your higher self. And I didn't know what a higher self was, but I wanted some help. So I said, sure. And by the way, what's the higher self? So the higher self is part of the soul. It's a connection that we have. It's really like a concierge. That's the best way I can describe it, where our spiritual support team works through our higher self. And if we open ourselves up to that, then we can have connection with spiritual guidance. So she gave me, she figured out that I needed something for my intuition. My higher self told her that. And so I took it home and I took a few drops of this under my tongue. It's supposed to take 7 or 8 months, 7 or 8 weeks, not months, weeks, for these things. And for me, instantly, it opened up my higher self connection. So that was just my soul just sort of accelerating things. It turns out that that's my role in life, to be an accelerator for people's growth. So it was for me too. So so now I had the tapping, which was a useful energy transformation tool, and I had a mechanism. I also learned how to make that connection with the higher self. So I could do that, so I could figure out whether I was on the right track or not. And I also, as soon as I did that, I got this experience of a different flow of consciousness. Now, at the time, I was kind of confused and thought it was pretty interesting, but kind of weird. But now I would call that the connection to the higher mind. So we all have the capacity to experience this higher mind, and most of the day we're experiencing what I call lower mind, which is really driven through our DNA and our conditioning and our ancestral connections and their conditioning. So the patterns, the sort of lineage-based patterns that we then work with as we make conscious decisions to maybe make different choices and evolve as a human being. But the higher mind is our connection with the part of our soul that is outside. It's in another dimension. It's not with us in this physical dimension. So it knows, because it's us, we are our soul, it knows exactly what it's chosen for us, or we have chosen really, for our life. It knows our purpose. It knows what we need to do to get there, to sort of get aligned with that and to become aware of that. So it will guide us in and out of adventures that we